Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Puppy Kindergarten Week 4. This week we're going to be doing some sit and stand on the Paw Pad. And I realized we actually were not supposed to introduce the foundational down last week. I have no idea why I thought we were, but it's in the curriculum for this week, so oh well, we introduced it a week earlier. And we will not practice down on the Paw Pad today. We practice down on the Paw Pad next week. Today is just sit and stand. Also, we're going to be doing hand tethering for impulse control and collar cues forward, backwards, left, and right. I'll just say, starting off, that though this collar cue session is the most challenging one to me and the least fun, so if you find yourself challenged by it, then don't be surprised. I definitely think it's the hardest one out of all of them. So the first exercise we're going to do is getting our puppy to sit on the Paw Pad, and this should be a fairly easy exercise for most of us. No matter how your puppy was doing with foundational sit, they generally do pretty okay with sit on the Paw Pad. So I'm going to get the Paw Pad, but before I do, I just want to point out something that's new in my setup here. That's this stool here. The reason I have that here is, and this is just something I like to do. You do not have to do it at home, but around about the 4th or 5th week, I like to set up something so that the puppy doesn't always have a wall on their left side. If they have a wall on their left side, then that can become something that they start to depend on to keep them in position. I like them to learn that they are responsible for keeping their own back end straight, whether or not there's something there on their side. So I put something where their back legs are. That way, if they start to swing their butt out of position because they feel like there's open space there, then their butt is going to hit the thing and then they straighten themselves out, and it just helps teach them muscle memory without having to be a visual cue like the wall that they're kind of used to leaning on it. Yes? I don't know why the cats are clustering today. I really don't know. Go. Shh, get out of here. Go. Okay. So we're going to warm up on the Paw Pad. Right, Cayman? Good girl. All right. I'm going to set it down, and when I set it down, it's going to be right in front of that stool so that her back legs will just hit the stool if she tries to spin out of position. Yes. Good girl. Yes. I clearly do not have a distraction-free environment, but also, yes, she works around the cats so much that they're not really that distracting to her. Now, if they were real-world strange cats outside, different story. Yes. Good girl. We're just warming up here. Okay. Now, I'm going to pick up the Paw Pad. Good girl, because I want to talk for just a minute. I'm going to get her on the Paw Pad like she normally is. Then I'm going to get a few treats in my hand, probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7, 10 seconds worth of treats is what they're supposed to be. And I will lure her into a sit. I'll let her step on the Paw Pad by herself, then I'll lure her into a sit, and then I will spend about 10 seconds treating her for staying in a sit, and then I'm going to just stand up again, and I'll either see if she'll get into a stand position by herself, or if she won't, then we'll lure her into a stand. But the lure for sit, just like with the foundational sit, it's going to look like the hand signal. So it's going to be treats under my thumb, kind of up in the air like this. So it'll look like what the eventual hand signal is going to look like. First, I'm going to put my treats back in my treat bag. I'll get the handful out when I go to get the treats to mark her for getting on the Paw Pad. Yes, good girl. So I'm getting more than one treat. So I gave her the one treat. Now she sat down, so I'm going to wait and see if she gets herself back on it again. Yes. Good girl. All right, now we're going to lure her. So here's my lure. Bring her head up. It's kind of a game finding the right angle to get them to sit. And once she does, then I'm just going to feed. Good girl. Not using the marker because I use the lure. Good girl. What a good girl. A good girl. Okay, now I'm just going to wait and see if she stands up by herself. Next week, we don't want them to shift position until we tell them to, but this week, it's okay if they stand up by themselves. Because what I'm trying to teach this week is sitting on the paw pad is good. But if she doesn't sit, then I will. Or if she doesn't stand, then I will lure her into a stand. She's almost doing it. I can see her thinking about it. And she stalled out, looked at the cat. Yes, good girl. Good job. All right. Now we'll lure her into a sit again. So bring my hand forward and up just a little bit. Not that. Good girl. Good girl. Don't worry about the pawing, that will stop. That's just because she doesn't know how to get the treats. Once she knows how to when she knows how to get them, she'll stop pawing. Good girl. She got out of position. I'm just going to bring her back. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Good girl. Yes. Girl. So I give her a bunch of treats in my hand. And we'll, oops. I forgot to treat her for the initial yes. That was bad. Okay, now we're going to pull her head up. I'm going to feed her treats while I pick up this treat that she doesn't notice that I dropped. I am really proud of myself for not teaching her that sometimes I drop food. Somehow I managed to get them in a way that was fast enough every time that she doesn't know that that's where they come from. That drop treats can be had from the ground. Good girl. Okay, so I'm going to have everybody at home practice with your puppy. So again, the steps that you're going to follow are let your puppy step up on the paw pad and mark yes, just like you always do. And when you go in to get the treat for stepping up on the paw pad, grab out enough extra kibble to let them eat out of your hand for like 10 seconds while you pez them while they're sitting. And then take your hand and lure them up into a sit. And you're probably not just going to be able to go like this and have them sit. You're probably going to have to like move your hand around, forward, up a little, down a little. They might paw at your hand. They might jump at your hand. But eventually they're probably going to go into a sit. I'll just say eventually they are going to go into a sit. Now, we don't want you using the word sit yet because we don't want to use the word until you have the finished behavior. And I know there's probably some people at home that are thinking to themselves, oh no, I already told my dog sit and she sits like for meals and things like that. Don't worry too much if you do that. Ideally, we want them to learn that sit means sit right here in this position by my left leg. But if you have used sit in other places and your dog's responding to it, then it's probably not the worst thing in the world. It's not perfectly clean training, but neither is it something that you should agonize over if you're doing it. And then some people say, well, what should I say if I want her to sit for her dinner? I say you don't say anything. You just stand there with the bowl, and eventually she's going to sit because she knows that that's what's expected of her. All right, so you all at home can try this with your puppies. And I'm going to sit on the floor and let my puppy take a break for a minute. I just slipped on my non-slip surface. Good girl. Want to play with that? She does not. She would rather train. Ready? You want this? And how many times should you do it? I say 3 to 5. I don't know why. 3 if they're getting it quick, 5 if they're not getting it quick. Actually, she really wasn't getting it that quick, so I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more with her. Since she doesn't want to play with the toy, she'd rather train, so, okay. We'll train. Come here. Come in. Good girl. Yes. Good girl. I don't want to do this too many times, though, because I'm going to have a really full puppy very soon if I do that. Good girl, good. That's a good girl. What a good girl you are. What a good girl. Don't make eye contact. If you make eye contact, that sometimes stalls them out and they don't want to do anything else because they're just watching your face. Yes, good girl. That's a good girl. Look at that, was way faster, wasn't it? Such a good girl. It's totally okay to praise while they're eating. Not only okay, it's recommended that you praise while they're eating. Good girl. Good, good, good. Because adding food to your praise makes your praise more valuable. You just can't praise first. Because the only way that they know that a treat's coming has to be yes. If you say good girl and then treat, then when you say good girl, they're going to stop and look at you like because they want a treat. So, when would you add the cue for sit? I would add the cue for sit when I would bet $10 that if I go like this, she's going to sit. If for people that like more stricter numbers, then you could say when your puppy immediately plops into a sit, when you do this 8 times out of 10, that's when you can add the verbal cue sit. But we're not going to add it yet because she's still pawing at my hand, so she doesn't completely understand what I want her to do when I do this. So I'm not going to add the verbal cue yet. But what I am going to do is start luring her into stand. So the hand signal for stand is, looks like your right hand with your thumb on top, fingers pointing out to your left. Your treats are going to be kind of hidden under your thumb here. Like, well, you can't have that many under there. Kind of like this. And you're going to put your hand right in front of the puppy's face and just pull her forward. Good girl, with your treats. And when she's got 2 feet on the paw pad, then you feed her, just like with sit. Good girl. That's a good girl. And now you can actually go back and forth between sit and stand. Why was I not doing this before? I don't know, because that's what the manual said. And I was following the manual. Good girl. Good girl. Good job. What a good girl. Very good. And I'm going to pull her forward. Good girl. You're such a good girl, Cayman. What a good girl. What a very good girl. All right, so more treats. And into a good girl. I almost yesed her. Did you hear me start to go, yeah, and then I stopped. Good girl. What a good girl. The time for yes is when I raise my hand with no treats in it and she plops her butt down. That's when I yes. Get her back into a sit. Good girl. Very nice. You're such a good girl. And then we lure her back into stand. Good job. Good puppy. Good girl. What a good girl. Yay. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like when you add the verbal cue, although I'm not adding the verbal cue yet. So when I do, I'm going to wait till she's back on the paw pad standing again. Actually, I'm going to pick this up for right now. Don't ever just let your dog tune out on the paw pad and like sort of slouch on it like she was doing. That's just bad form and teaches them that it's okay to do nothing around the paw pad. So what I'm going to do is I'll get her on the paw pad standing, and then I'll show you what it would look like if I was adding the verbal cue to sit. But she's not really ready for that, but I need to show you guys what it looks like because that's part of what we would like you to work towards this week is adding the cue. So put down the paw pad, she's going to stand on it, and I'll mark and reward her for that. I hope she will. She will, if I wait her out. Yes, good girl. So this is what it would look like when I add the cue. I would, she knows, she's figured out what I'm doing. So maybe she is ready to add the cue, who knows. I'm going to get her back on though. Come in. Yes. So what it would look like when I add the cue is I would say, Cayman, sit, and then bring the thing up like this. And she said, but it wasn't on the paw pad, so I'm not going to yes her for that. I'm going to let her sit back up on the paw pad. And next time I'm going to do it with food with my hand because I knew she wasn't ready. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. So now, this is what it looks like. Pretend I don't have food in my hand, even though I do. I would say, Cayman, sit. And yes, good girl. Yes, and then we would start treating for a duration of holding the sit. Yes. Good girl. Yes. Good girl. Yes. Good. And it would be the same thing for adding the verbal cue for stand. Again, she is not ready to add the verbal cue, but I'm going to show you what it looks like anyway. So without food in my hand, even though I have food in my hand right now, I would say, Cayman, stand, move my hand forward, yes, and treat her when she goes forward. Yes. Yes. Good girl. Yes. Look at me making eye contact with her. It's because she's so beautiful. I just can't help it. I can't help it. I'm being sloppy, so don't do that at home. Now she's figuring out I like sit and I like stand, so she's just flip-flopping between the two of them. She's probably going to be ready to add the cue very soon, like maybe another day. We have not practiced this. Part of the reason for doing this puppy kindergarten is to do it live, so you can see what it looks like with a puppy that hasn't done this before. But she probably will be ready to learn it very quickly. So what you want you guys to do at home is practice luring your puppy between sit and stand. And when they're following the lure pretty easily, then you can start to add duration. So for adding duration, you want to wait, let them hold the position for a second, and then yes, and reward them again. So if they're in sit, they followed your lure into sit, you've fed them a little bit, then you're going to stand up and then yes, and treat them again, and then yes, and then treat them again. Good girl. You're such a good girl. All right, Cayman's just going to take a little break here. We'll see if she wants to play with her S. And I'm going to let you all practice, and the next thing we're going to talk about before we move on to hand tethering is the 3 Ds: distance, duration, and distraction. You're such a good girl. She does not want her S. She wants more treats. Good girl. What's wrong with the S? You liked it last week? I know. You're such a good girl. Want to do body handling instead? Very good, Cayman. Very good girl. Good girl. All right. If you're still practicing with your puppies on the Paw Pad, you can practice, but anytime we're teaching a new skill, and that could be holding position on the Paw Pad, or teaching a verbal cue, or anything the dog isn't really 100% sure about, we always want to keep the 3 Ds in mind and not go too quickly with any one of those 3 Ds. So the 3 Ds are distance from the puppy, that's your distance from the puppy, or the puppy's distance from a distraction. Duration, which is how long we expect the puppy to do something. And distraction, which is how many other things are happening in the environment where we want the puppy to concentrate. So when we're working on teaching the puppy a skill and making the skill really solid, let's say we're talking about teaching the puppy to hold position on the Paw Pad. So if we got the puppy to where they were stepping up on the Paw Pad as soon as they saw it, and they definitely knew that Paw Pad was good and we liked them standing on it, after we get that, then we start teaching them that we want them to stay there for a longer period of time. Not just put your feet up and get a treat, but put your feet up and wait, and then get a treat. And we build that duration up gradually. So we don't just go from putting the feet up to holding position for 5 seconds. That's too long. We go to 1 second, and then 2, and then 3, and then maybe 5, and then maybe 8, and then back to 5. But my point is that we don't speed it all up all at once. And we also don't try to teach duration combined with anything else. So say that I'm working on duration on the Paw Pad, and I want my puppy to stay there for 5 seconds. That's my goal. So if I'm standing next to my puppy on the Paw Pad, and we're working on duration, and I take out a tennis ball and start bouncing it in front of my puppy at the same time I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's bad training because it's working on 2 criteria at the same time. You can't increase your duration at the same time you're increasing your distraction, because that's probably going to be too much for the puppy's brain to handle. Unless you have a super puppy, then maybe it'll be fine. But most puppies would not be able to control themselves for that long on the Paw Pad if they didn't already have a really solid history of reinforcement for duration. So if you built your puppy up to 30 seconds on the Paw Pad, then you probably could bounce a tennis ball for 2 or 3 seconds, and they would probably hold position. Yes, girl. That's okay, because that way you would already have the duration established, and now you're working on distraction. Distance is another one. When we worked on having the puppy hold still with handler movement, when we first made those first steps away from them, we did not go very far, and we moved very quickly. So we stepped out of position, and then we stepped back and rewarded them. And we didn't start moving further away from them until we'd already practiced a lot of duration. So you don't, hopefully everybody understands the point of this, which is that you don't want to work on a whole bunch of new stuff at the same time. You want to add one skill at a time, make that one really strong, and then introduce another one at a lower level, because the puppy already has a big bank account of rewards for the first one that you worked on. And that will hold true throughout your dog's training. So anytime we're practicing, like stay with distractions, for example, we always want to make sure that we're increasing criteria gradually and only one D at a time. For more reading about the Ds, look in your manual, page 64. I will say it again, page 64 in your manual talks about the 3 Ds. So if the 3 Ds did not make sense the way I described them, then you can go look in the manual, and they're described there too. All right, we had better do some impulse control before my puppy completely runs out of energy, because we still have collar cues to do after that. So up until now, we've been doing, our impulse control has been a ground tether, which is stepping on the leash with our foot. We're going to move from that to a hand tether. Hand tethers are harder for most people, because what most people want to do when their puppy pulls, unless we're really thinking about it, our instinct is to go with the puppy. So can you call her, just clap your hands. So watch my arm. So our arms usually go out like that. That is not fixed pressure. That's the opposite of fixed pressure. In fact, that's called, yes, that's referred to as bungee arm. When your arm goes where the puppy wants it to. So that's kind of what our arms do naturally when we're not thinking about it. And that's another reason I'm such a fan of the ground tether, because our feet never do that. And plus I need my hands to talk with them. I don't know how I could explain anything without my hands. Also, did you see what she just did? She tried to jump, and because she was ground tethered, she couldn't get all the way up. The leash kind of stopped her, and that was not really pleasant to her, but she also didn't perceive it as coming from me, so it wasn't really like I administered a correction. It was like she did something, she didn't like it, so now she's less likely to do that again. It's another reason I like the ground tether. But when we're out in public, or even when you're just walking in your driveway, maybe when you're just busying your puppy outside and it's trying to eat mulch or something, then you need to do something with the leash in your hand. You can't just let the puppy pull toward what it wants and get it, because then it's going to learn that it can pull into pressure and get what it wants and eat it. And that's the exact thing we don't want it to learn. That's kind of in their instincts anyway, but if we let them practice, it's going to get way stronger. So what we have to do is we have to make our hand into a tether, which means we have to keep our hand from moving when the puppy pulls. So for this exercise, hopefully you have a distractor. What you're going to do is you're going to take the leash and hold the leash so that the puppy, when in good position, has slack. So you can see that my leash, hopefully you can see, it's getting dark in here, but hopefully you can see that my leash has some slack in it, because she's where she's supposed to be. And I don't want her to have enough slack that if she dives for the ground, she can pick up something she wants. So it has to be right in the middle, where it's like the Goldilocks amount of leash, where just enough so that if she goes to the ground, she can't eat something, but also enough slack so that she knows what it's supposed to feel like. And you should be able to see just a little bit of slack if it's in the right spot. So when she pulls for something, what she's going to do, because my distractor is going to have something distracting enough to make her, then what I'm going to do with my hand is I'm going to fix it to my leg, and I like to actually take it and do that to my leg, because if I just hold it close to my leg, then my hand moves around like this. So I like to do that. It's supposed to be at the neck level of the puppy, so you may have to bend down. You will probably have to bend down and anchor your hand to your leg here. As the puppy grows, I call these hand tethering pants because they have a really good pocket right here that a taller puppy, you can just kind of put your thumb right there in the cargo pocket, and that's the right place to hand tether, and it's easy. But for your puppy that's short right now, then you're going to have to hand tether to your leg. So what's going to happen is the puppy's going to pull toward a distraction, you're going to hand tether, and you're going to wait for the puppy to slacken the leash just a little bit, just like we did last week or the week before with ground tethering. And when the puppy does that, you can mark and reward. Now, the other thing you can mark and reward is if the puppy doesn't go towards it at all, which is possible because this is late for these puppies, and this one looks like she's about to conk out right now. Hopefully she'll wake up for this and the next exercise. But you can reward not moving toward the object, because that's a choice that they're making. It's a good choice. We don't want them to move toward it. And you can also reward, at this age, you can reward looking at you. We don't want to create a puppy that checks in with you all the time, because while that's very good for a pet dog or for an obedience dog, it's not necessarily the best for our puppies. They need to learn to look forward and to not seek eye contact. But at this stage, we want to make it clear to them that choosing to not go for the distraction is the thing that we want. So in this case, if they decide to look at us instead of the distraction, well, that's okay at this age. Okay, without talking anymore, I'm going to get my distraction, just a tennis ball, throw it to my distractor, and I'm going to get ready with my hand. So my hand is down here. I have to bend down a little, but I'm ready to tether her as she goes. Okay, go ahead and bounce. Yes, so I just decided that was enough time. I didn't want her to go any longer wondering, is this the right thing or not? So I yesed her for that. Can you move a little closer? Yes, good girl. I think she may just not care too much about this. Can you roll it like across the floor? Yes. All right, we're going to go for the food distraction. She either doesn't care about the ball or she's just too tired. Totally possible. All right. I want to make sure she sees them, so I'm giving him the big distractions, and Pip can have them later because she's really sad that she's on the tie down and not doing this exercise. Okay, so go ahead and set them on the floor. Tethered. Yes, good girl. Good job. All right, so can you move them around a little more or drop them? Yes, good girl. And can you pick them up and offer them to her?
Cookie.
Tether. Yes, I should have marked a little earlier because there was a second when she gave a tiny bit of slack and I just didn't. I don't know why. Okay, do it again.
My cookie.
Yes, good girl. I rewarded sooner that time because I feel like she learned what I wanted last time, and now she's thinking, oh, okay, I get this game. I don't pull towards it, then I get the thing. And I don't want her to be guessing at what I want. So we'll do one more. Just come in really fast and close. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Okay, now take it away. Good girl. I'm going to stop with the impulse control there because that last one was about as good as I could have asked for. She looked right at it, and she even moved her head toward it a little, and then I always picture the angel over here and the devil over here, and the devil's like, go get it, go get it, go get it, and the angel's like, no, sit still, do not. So I want to make sure that she knows that she made the right choice, especially when you can see them struggling like that. It's like they're thinking, what is it? Which is the best thing to do? And I don't want them to think that that was not the response I was looking for. So that's also a good one to quit that session on. I can't prove that dogs learn or process things in their head after the training session, but I can say that after all these years of training, my next session has always gone better if I ended on a success. So I don't know that dogs actually sit there and think about it. What? Oh yeah, thank you. It's really helpful when you have somebody to take the puppy to busy, especially when I know she has to. Maybe she'll get some more energy built up again so that we can try collar cues next, hopefully. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so what I was saying is that you always want to quit on success, because I believe that makes it more likely that they will start off with success more the next time. I cannot prove it, and probably I should someday do an experiment, or there might be an experiment already done in the training literature. I just don't know where it is. But I'm superstitious enough that I will always end on a positive before I move on to the next thing. And the next thing, in this case, is going to be collar cues. So hopefully you all are at home practicing this with your puppy. I'm just going to let Pip come in and say hi really quick. Here. Pip would like to train too. We actually have been training a little bit, but we don't have any tricks that are ready to show everybody yet. But I'm going to give her a few treats just for being cute. Right, Pip? Or I'll let her do the Paw Pad just for old time's sake. Yes, you're so smart. What a good girl. Our transfer dogs like to train too. Right, Pippi? Yes. Good girl. Okay. Off the Paw Pad with you. Come here. Good girl. Okay, so I know that we're going kind of quick with this, but if you need a review, you can always go to the YouTube channel and watch again. Just put it on pause between exercises, or it's also still in the Facebook, on the Facebook page in videos. You just have to search for #PuppyK or kindergarten or week 4, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. I don't just want to sit here and look at the camera and make you look at me looking at the camera for a long time if you're not actually practicing with the puppy. So that's why we're moving on really quickly to collar cues. So collar cues, forward, backward, left, and right. The challenge for this one is that you want the puppy moving in response to your collar cues and not in response to your body. So you have to try to keep your body or your feet still while you're doing little collar cues to the left, right, forward, backward. I have trouble with this one with the collar cues left. I always have, although I'm getting better. The collar cues forward are a little tricky because the puppy gets out of position. The collar cues back, a lot of puppies want to sit. So this is an exercise that is fairly challenging, so don't worry too much if it doesn't look exactly like it should when you do it today. If you do it often enough, it will look good later, just like everything else does. Okay, so we're going to start. I do like to start this one up against the wall, just because it's easier for me to keep the puppy in a straight line when we're moving them forward. If I move her forward and we're not against the wall, then it seems to be much easier for them to curl in front of me and end up staring at me, which then makes applying a backward collar cue to get them into position almost impossible. So I'm going to get up here. Cameron, good girl. And I'm going to move my non-slip surface closer to the wall, the cabinet in this case. So just like with every other collar cue, we want the pressure to be at the puppy's neck level and horizontal. So we're not doing this. Well, even she would move with that, but that's not what we're doing. Yes, good girl. Good girl. So I'm going to get a short hold on the leash, and then I'm going to step up next to her and keep my feet still. Everyone at home, watch my feet and tell me if I move them. And I'm going to do just a very short collar cue forward. Yes, good girl. Good girl. I'm going to do another one because she sat down right away, and I want to get her to go backward, but I'd rather do it while she's standing. Yes, good girl. I'm going to deliver the treat in such a way that she stands so that I have a better position to go backwards. We'll pull backwards. Okay, she went into a sit, which is really common with this. So what I do for that is first get her into a stand again. Yes, good. Treat her so that she stands up again. And then when she does that, I'm just going to put my toe right under her belly so that if she tries to sit, she's going to sit on my toe. Yes, good girl. Good girl. She sat at the end anyway, but she got a couple steps back before she sat. So move her forward again. I'm going to move my feet. Just one step. Okay. Now I'm not going to move them again. Yes. Good girl. And then back. Yes. So just from one time of trying to sitting on my foot, she did better with moving backwards without sitting. Forward. Yes. Good girl. I'm going to put the foot again because I think I might need it. Yes. Good girl. Good job. Yes. See that time she went back without even trying to sit. Forward. Yes. Good girl. That was my fault because I didn't get her into a stand when I gave her the treat. I should have. I'm going to give her a collar cue back just to see if she's thought about it, about going back. Yes, good girl. She has. What a good girl. You're a genius, Cayman. Not genius, but she's really smart. Forward. Yes. These are not big distances either. The reason is because it's really important for me to not move my feet in this lesson. Yes. Good girl. I don't care that she sat after she moved. I just don't want her to respond to the collar cue back by going into a sit. Now when she's done, when she's learned this, I should be able to back all the way up there and she should be able to back with me. But for right now, we just need, yes, 1 or 2 steps forward and yes, 1 or 2 steps backward. Yes. Good girl. At least she's getting sloppy too. Falling all over the place. Don't have a sloppy leash. All right, so I'm going to get her into a stand. And then, yes, good girl. Okay, go ahead and try some color cues forward and back before we move on to left and right. Forward and back can be challenging, and I would say for color cues back, they try to sit probably 1/3 to 1/2 of the time. That's really, really common. Sometimes you don't have to actually point your toe up. You can just slide your foot under their body if they try to sit. I'll get her into a stand and then show you again, because I know somebody's puppy at home is doing this. Probably a lot of your puppies. You can just put your foot right there, and then when you go backwards, yes, good girl. That gets rid of that habit very quickly. It's probably one of the easiest fixes I know of in dog training. So we like it a lot. Right, pretty girl? You're such a good girl. I heard Pip in the other room. She's very sad. Don't worry, I'll play with her after this. Good girl. So for left and right, I also recommend teaching this not too far from a wall, teaching it. You'll see in the GDB video, and I don't remember if it's in ours, I watched the GDB one right before this class, that they're doing it out in a wide open area and the puppy's moving really nicely to the left and right. And to me, it's just easier to do if you teach it with a more limited space in the beginning. So for the first couple practice sessions, have something on the close, like a wall close to the puppy's side so that it can't wander all over the place. Just remember, if you're collar cueing at home, I'm going to say this one more time because it needs to be said a lot. You have to have a short hold on the collar and leash. If your hold is like this, and you're very quickly going to run out of arm space to put collar pressure on, and the pressure has to be horizontal to the ground. Yes, you're such a good girl. Good girl. It's like every puppy that I have is better than the last one at collar cues. That's great. Okay. Left and right collar cues. Now, when we're teaching left and right collar cues, again, I don't want to just move over here because she's just going to come with me because she saw me, so of course she's coming with me. I don't want her to follow me. I want her to move in reaction to the collar cue. So I'm going to plant my feet. This is a good spot. This is a good spot. Okay, I'm going to plant one on one side, one on the carpet, one off the carpet. That way I know I won't move. I'm actually going to cue her into heel position with just a regular collar cue, the kind that I would use in the last lesson. Yes. Now I'm not going to move my feet. And I'm going to get my leash ready and yes, good girl. And then I'm going to collar cue her back to my left leg. Yes, good. Very nice. And then back to the left. Yes, good girl. You're so good, Cayman. And then back to my leg. Yes. I can feel myself getting greedy. I want to try to go all the way across the kitchen. Yes, good girl. But see why it's important for me to stand in one place, because if I move, she didn't follow me because she's tired, she's running out of energy. But it's really easy for the puppy to follow you and then you think, oh yeah, she's doing collar cues, but she's really not doing collar cues, she's just following you. So I'm going to practice this a little bit more and you can do the same at home. Hopefully you all have your puppies on a non-slip surface, because this is one where a slip surface can really change the effectiveness of what you're trying to do and not for the better. I'm just going to keep cueing, yes, left and right because it's fun. Look at my dog, she moves like magic. I love it. Yes, good girl. You're such a good girl. Yes, very nice. Okay, I'm going to try one step to the right while she's chewing. Yes, good. When you do start moving away from the wall, try to make your movement while they're chewing, because that way they're kind of distracted from you for a second. Yes, good girl. Yes. That really was not a good collar cue because she was too close to the cabinet, but she still moved there anyway. Yes, good girl. What a good girl. Okay, everybody at home can practice your collar cues left and right, and I'm going to do a drink because my throat's dry. I know, bet you would like a drink too. Good girl. So if anyone is having trouble with this, don't be alarmed, because this is a really common one to struggle with. We can work it out on the Friday Puppy Cage troubleshooting. If you have not come to one of the Zoom sessions, then definitely do if you're having trouble with collar cues, because that's something we can fix. It's something that's not too difficult to fix when I'm actually looking at you and your puppy, but it's difficult to fix from my kitchen when I can't see you. All right, so the last thing we have for tonight is body handling, and our body handling for tonight calls for somebody other than the puppy's primary handler to handle the puppy. So I'm going to get Will, and he's going to help me. So because we're changing something, we're changing who's handling the puppy, then we're reducing expectations a little bit. So we're going back to just very brief body touches. And he's going to start off with long, slow strokes because that's calming. She might want to play bitey face with his beard. Good girl. And we're not going to do anything other than this until she stops trying to bite his beard and his shirt. Good girl. We might have to give her a lump. Maybe she's okay. There you go. Okay, and then when she's being pretty good about letting him touch her, then I'll say left ear. So just check her ear, unfold, look inside. Good girl. Now he could use treats if he wants to. Do you have treats? Yeah, you do. Good girl. And then right ear. Oh, what kind of treat is that?
I don't know.
It's taking her a long time to chew. She has a good stomach, thankfully. So whatever kind of treat it is, she'll probably be fine. Good. And more long strokes, and then let's do right front foot. Yes. Oop. I shouldn't have said that. The handler yeses, not me. Because one of the lessons they have to learn is yes only means treat if it comes from your primary handler. My gosh. What is that, like a full-size milk bone or something? Okay, left front foot. Yes, good. Body handling is not her favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing either. So luckily having this much time at home to work with her on it, I'm more disciplined than I have ever been, and she's getting a lot better than my previous dogs have been. Let's just say that. Okay, mouth, just like lift one gum or one lip. That's it. Good enough. He doesn't need to go sticking his fingers into her mouth. Good girl. And then just like see if you can get her laying down. You can just help her and do it down. I don't think it will take too much because I think she's about ready to crash. Oh, maybe she doesn't want to. Good girl. You're so tired, like a little kid at Disneyland. I always feel like if this was a yoga class, this is where we'd be going into one of those relaxing poses and just laying down there for like 5 minutes. What's that one pose called? I don't remember. Somebody out there knows, but not me. Anyway, I'll be emailing homework out to the ACs, and they will be sending it out to you guys. But basically, it's just continuing what we've been working on. Come to the Zoom class on Friday night if you want to have feedback from us on how you're doing, or if you've run into a problem spot and you're just not sure what to do. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you can't request help before then. If you're having problems with any of these exercises, you can let your AC know, and your AC should be able to work with you. If you need a one-on-one Zoom session set up, we can do those too. We are more than happy to do those, so please speak up if you think that would be helpful for you. I believe that's all we have for tonight. I probably forgot something, but hopefully it wasn't anything critical. No, I don't think so. All right. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and end this session. Good night, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your puppies. Week 4, we're 2/3 of the way done with puppy kindergarten, and they all have looked really good from what we've seen on the Zoom session. So good job, everybody. Thank you, Will, for being my guest handler. Good night, everyone.